The Velma show has finally come to an end. We had 10 episodes over the course of 5 weeks where the plot that was established in the first episode of the show was resolved in a way that wasn't necessarily worth the wait and left an unsatisfying feeling in the mind. But one thing that we did take away from this show is that the world is now established and the possibility to return is open. Whether that's a good thing or not, it could well happen. With the show getting a lot of stick over the past 5 weeks, I thought I'd take more of a holistic view at the entirety of the show and get into the core of why the show failed and got such a negative response. So let's get into it. Here is every reason why the Velma show failed. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. I'll break this video down by a few different categories that I feel contributed to the low quality of the show. The characters. One thing that made up the blueprint of this show and is arguably the most important thing in the makeup of any TV show whatsoever is the characters. Individuals that you can root for, fight against, relate to, empathize with, and also feel you can go on a journey with. This was where the show went wrong from the off. The Velma show took characters that many people have come to love and have genuine connections with due to watching the many Scooby-Doo shows since the 1960s, and it altered them drastically to the point where they were unrecognizable due to the behaviors that they were emitting. Let's take Fred. He was previously a strong leader type character who was intelligent to the point where he was able to invent traps in order to catch the villains and was the person who kept the group unified and as one. However, now he was being shown to us as a person who was quite literally an incapable idiot, and it felt as though they only did this so they could have the reveal of Fred's mother being the main villain of the plot of season 1, as she didn't want him ruining the business that she built. So they took everything that made up a character other than his appearance and altered it when putting him in this show. With it being marked as a prequel, the usual thing to think would be, oh, but he's not the Fred that we know yet. But the thing is, this Fred was so far from the Fred that we came to ever know, it just didn't feel believable at all. With regards to Norville, aka Shaggy, they did a similar thing, but all they did was give Norville the iconic green t-shirt and brown trousers to pass him off. The character that we came to know in this show didn't resemble the humorous, one-on-one comedy-filled, laid-back, eyes bigger than his stomach person that we loved. His entire personality was different, but that wasn't even the main problem. The problem was that they made him an extremely weak individual that kept running back to the protagonist of the show, despite the fact that she treated him and his family like dirt, disregarding his feelings, emotions, and friendship. It was just extremely frustrating seeing a character that had potential to be likable due to the drastically different nature to the original just be thrown to the side a countless number of times. I didn't mind Norville to start with, but they just made him extremely unbelievably weak. In this show, it felt like Daphne had a recurring role that she needed to fill every few episodes. She'd fall out with Velma, fall in love with her, argue, and then fall out again as they wouldn't be together. And it just felt like they didn't really think about her whatsoever. She had a semi-interesting story about her mother and father abandoning her, but it didn't amount to anything at all. It felt like it was crafted just so they could forge a way for the pocket watch to be included in the finale. And then we had the main character Velma. Velma soon became one of the most unlikable characters on TV. Velma was known for her intelligence in the original show, but in this one, she was positioned as being a detective, which I was totally fine with. However, we saw that she had no detective skills whatsoever being practiced. All she had was a persistent nature and the luck of clues falling into her lap, especially when it came to the pocket watch in the finale. Velma had no redeeming qualities about her and spent the entire 10 episodes being selfish and only doing things that benefited herself. She messed Daphne around, messed Norville around, and then right at the end she kicked her dad out of the house, which I thought was a weird way for the show to end. Yes, she solved the mystery, but barely. Without all of the people that she disregarded and treated like trash, she wouldn't have gotten anywhere with the case. Characters are so important to a show, and it just feels like this TV series got every character arc wrong, and almost wrote them separately without thinking about how they'd interact with each other in a group environment. The humor. With the Velma series being positioned as an adult comedy, it was something that I expected to not necessarily make me laugh out loud relentlessly, but at least have subtle bits embedded within it that I'd notice and appreciate. However, this wasn't the case. There was the odd moment, and I would say that most of it probably came from Fred, so there was one good thing about the character's naivety, but most of the time the humour was about making bold statements that would be taken too far, such as Velma dressing up as a man called Manny, which just didn't really land, and also Fred becoming an extreme feminist. Or the alternative options that we'd usually get would be it solely relying on jokes being made about being intimate with somebody, and really leaning in on jokes that I feel we would have seen in shows like South Park, Brickleberry, Big Mouth, and even Family Guy many years ago, so it just felt a little dated. This is something that I feel transitions well into the next point, the lack of identity. What shows like this really need is something that gives it an identity, and this didn't have anything that really allowed it to feel like it had a sense of identity other than the fact it was using some of the IP from the Scooby-Doo universe. It was holding on to that and using it to its advantage. What it felt like this show tried to do was incorporate many different things from different styles in order to see what worked. However, over the course of 10 episodes, in having this approach, it ends up feeling a little confusing, and like it doesn't really have any real purpose or distinguishing factors. One thing that I feel this show should have leaned in on is the art style of the hallucinations, and maybe incorporating them into the show a little more. They were inconsequential and never really needed to happen. A hallucination never caused a bad moment to occur or resulted in a knock-on effect where things went wrong. However, it could have been a key part of the plot. It could have caused something bad to happen and then led Velma to feel the guilt. But in this show, something like that just wouldn't have happened. The hallucinations had the potential to give this show a sense of identity, almost drifting between Velma's mind and the real world, but it just didn't play out like that. Instead, when she lost them, it just made Velma have no weaknesses, and we did genuinely see her change for the worse. It's a shame that the show didn't succeed, because I don't think anybody ever wants a show to fail, especially before it even airs. However, the makeup of this show, the characters, the writing, the world that it was set in, and the fact that they used and altered much-loved characters contributed to this show failing week after week as the season went on. I feel the second season is most likely going to be on the cards. With 20 episodes apparently being commissioned from the off, and us only having 10, I think it's almost certain to go ahead, with the mid-credit scene and also the show becoming the most watched animated show of all time on the platform. They're not going to want to cancel the show. Not just yet anyway. If the 20 episodes were commissioned and were worked on at the same time, it doesn't look like the quality is going to improve over the next season. However, if it's not been touched yet, there's still hope that the show will get better in the next season after looking at the feedback. We'll just have to wait and see. So, there you have it. Every reason why the Velma show failed. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think the main problem with Velma was? Leave a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.